Alright, welcome back to the basement where this is top level content from the lower level. We hope you all enjoyed our last episode of our Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. That's the first time I said that without being tongue-tied, guys. So I'm pretty proud of that. Progress. We getting better at it. So this is part 2 of our mini-series on Appalachian and West Virginia folklore. This story, the first part of our episode, though, is going to be Appalachian folklore because it's based in multiple states around here, okay?
Yeah.
So, how'd y'all enjoy the last episode before we dig into this?
I thought it was fun. I like covering stuff like that.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, because all of us are history guys, so we covered a lot of history in that one too.
We sure did. We did cover a whole lot of history.
We literally covered a century worth of history, for being honest.
160 years, actually, of history.
And some pretty cool ghost stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or, I guess, folklore stories about ghosts.
Well, this is more of a folklore type of story here is what we're about to dig into.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, we're going to start with the story that originated in Frederick County, Maryland. A story that originated there in the 1700s by German settlers that moved into that area. What it was, there was a girl that went outside in her backyard and she noticed that there was something in the trees, something bigger in the top of the trees, but she couldn't get a good look at it. So what she did, she grabbed a stick. This little girl was about 6-7 years old. She grabbed a stick and tried to sling it up to the tree. But being a 6-7-year-old girl, she wasn't able to throw it up to the top of the tree. So the stick hit a couple of tree limbs, come flying back down and hit the little girl in the face. So what happened after that is she grabbed a rock about the size of her hand and took that rock and chucked it up to the top of that tree. And when she threw it up there, it smacked whatever that creature was right in the backside, and it moved a little bit. So her curiosity got the best of her because she was by herself in the woods. Normally she's never been by herself like that because her mother had always been with her. But she grabbed another rock and slung it up there. And it smacked this creature again. Mm-hmm. This time the tree branches started bending down. The tree started shaking. And she seen this large creature start to turn around and look at her. And what she describes is this creature come down out of the tree and got face to face with her. And what she described to it was like a bird-like reptile creature that had a long beak and big eyes and had, 15-foot wingspan, kind of looked like a dragon, is what she said. It got really close to her face and she was extremely scared. She froze to a point where she started backing up from the run away from it. So she finally did after it let out this huge screech. She runs into her house to tell her mom, hey, there's something out in the backyard. Her mother didn't believe her. Wants to take her out to the backyard and show her there's nothing there. Lo and behold, when they go out there, there's nothing out there. There's absolutely nothing out there. However, when they turn back around and walk back to the house, a tree branch breaks. So they hightail it back home. What we're talking about is what the German settlers called the Snallygaster. Or what we call is, and don't quote me on my German pronunciation because that was very brutal and wrong, but it translates into quick spirit, or what we in West Virginia and Maryland and Virginia have known to call the Snallygaster. The Snallygaster, which started in Franklin County, Maryland, was seen not only in Franklin County but in Berkeley County, West Virginia, and Washington, D.C. It also appeared in the Harry Potter franchises and the Fallout 76 movie. It's described as, like I said, mostly is described as a dragon with wings, a long beak. Some issues say it has 2 big eyes, but mostly you're seeing one big eye. In the Fallout 76 franchise, however, they took a different look at it, whereas it is a bipedal, kind of like a grotesque morphed animal with eyeballs all down its back and eyeball hair, and it screeches real loud and kind of chases you. I think it spits out acid on Fallout 76. I'm not sure. But with the Snallygaster, it was a German, and honestly, with the name Snallygaster, you know how I came up with that? It was poorly educated people in this area that mispronounced the name.
Really?
They could not pronounce the German name, so they come up with Snallygaster.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that checks.
You're right. And the crazy part about the Snallygaster is it started appearing in the 1700s, right? And then went away for a little while. And then you start hearing about the New Jersey Devil, which appears and looks almost identical to the West Virginia, Maryland, Virginia Snallygaster, right? You start seeing a lot of sightings of these Snallygasters. It even got to the point to where the Snallygaster come back to this area, and they started having like their livestock disappearing. And there's also another folklore in West Virginia, which I don't know a whole lot about, but it's kind of like a huge giant dog being, not a hellhound, but something similar to it. Where they say the folklore is that the Snallygaster and this hellhound, I guess you would say, made a deal where the hellhound wouldn't attack or intimidate what the Snallygaster would like to eat, and the Snallygaster wouldn't harass the people. So they made a folklore deal. The Snallygaster dates back not only German heritage, but Native American and everything. They go back that far.
So was it an ominous creature?
They never really said. It didn't bring back any like feelings, or it wasn't like the Mothman per se.
And are there any like records of it attacking people, or just?
There is a record of it. It said that there was a story of the Snallygaster flying, and it swoops down and grabs up a human and pierces its neck right here with its beak, its long beak. See, a lot of people at the time described it as a vampire/dragon because it would drink the blood of its victims. The only eyewitness person that would have confirmed this story was the one that died. So we don't know. However, the Snallygaster started getting back in the huge news in West Virginia in the late 1890s, early 1900s. Y'all know who Teddy Roosevelt is, right?
Yeah.
President.
Yeah.
Very into hunting. He loved to hunt, big game hunting. You know, in 1909, he made it a point to say he wanted to go on an expedition to hunt the Snallygaster.
Really?
I saw that.
Yes.
I saw that he was actually supposed to go on an African safari, and he almost canceled the African safari because to go hunt the Snallygaster.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Snallygaster, it does have I keep looking at my phone to make sure I don't miss anything, but there is actually Snallygasters up until the 1940s is when it was last seen in Maryland. It's also seen in Germany, obviously. It was a German folklore is what they brought here.
So I wonder if it's like a spirit thing that followed German settlers here.
Well, see, what it was is the Germans that claimed to see it came from Pennsylvania, and they escaped there because, they're called the Pennsylvania Dutch, which are German. And they moved down to that area, and they said it kind of followed down there. The sighting in West Virginia, however, states that the Snallygaster was seen going into a barn, and when it got into the barn, it laid an egg there. But that's where the story ends.
So what'd they do with the egg?
They
ate it.
I mean, that definitely sounds like something that West Virginians would do.
But they never really went into it. See, that's the thing about the Snallygaster. You have these eyewitness reports, but it doesn't go further detail into it.
So, but the New Jersey Devil comes after?
In the midst, like when the Snallygaster shows up in these areas, the New Jersey Devil is dormant. But when the New Jersey Devil is out, the Snallygaster is dormant. Now, there is some theories that it could be just that the New Jersey Devil did get a lot more publicity. I mean, they got a hockey team named after it.
Yeah.
That this is just a made-up story to kind of make up and just join into the New Jersey Devil. But is it the same thing?
I mean, it sounds to me like it's a really good shot of it. Because, I mean, if one's dormant and then there's sightings of the other and vice versa, It sounded
I
like it
think about
very
the
well
time
could be.
period, you know, how good was communication during those time periods? I mean, you know, it's not like they had cell phones back then. Like, man, I just saw the Snallygaster. So you got people that, you know, and there's a, you know, New Jersey isn't too far away, but it's far enough away that during that time it would have taken a while for, you know, news to spread about something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, you did have the newspaper and the tabloids, which did kind of it did bring stories a lot quicker.
Yeah, but that was like near closer to about the end of it, wasn't it? Like the middle to end of the Snallygaster era.
Yeah, because in 1700, you got to think not a lot.
Yeah, I think that they had just started doing like printing presses and stuff like that, but I mean, and not to be funny, but you know, education wasn't the best during that time too. So, how many people could actually read where they were printing during that time?
Well, not only that, in German folklore, in Germany, I'm not an expert in it, but they do heavily believe in dragons.
Yeah.
Could it be something? The thing is when you research into it, you got I think they call it, no, this is a different story. But anyways, the Native Americans in the area have very striking same resemblances of the Snallygaster, just like with the Mothman.
Well, does the Native Americans have a name for the Snallygaster?
No, it's just a dragon-like. I don't remember exactly what it is, but we'll look it up real quick.
So-
And is there any record the Native Americans seeing it before the German settlers?
It don't say.
So I'm thinking maybe it is an ominous spirit that attached to some of these settlers.
It could be.
It could be. So,
But, I mean, you said that there was reported like of it killing its victim. So I mean, that's definitely some type of ominous.
Yeah, it's not like a super friendly being.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely interesting though, because honestly, I didn't know anything about the Snallygaster much.
yeah, also with the
I
Snallygaster,
didn't either.
the history of it is very shrouded in mystery because it's not, it comes and goes. As soon as people are seeing it, it goes away. And then people forget about it, and then they see it again, and then they forget about it again, and then they see it again. Whereas there was just one story where this person seen it when they were a kid, and then they grew up and they were an adult, and they were a tree farmer. And, you know, that's what they done. And they visited the town, went into the, they had a lot of dogs missing at that time. A lot of people's dogs would come up missing. And he had a dog that used to walk the trees with him when he go to check them, make sure they're all healthy and everything. And his dog's name was Charlie. And this dog took off running through the woods, right? And like growled at something. And it never acted like that. And this dog was barking and barking and barking, and then went silent for 5 to 10 minutes, and then comes sprinting back to the owner with his tail tucked between his legs, scared to death.
And see that?
So the owner's like, I don't know what that was, but they go into town and go into this greenhouse, and the dog goes over to the owner who likes to give the dog snacks and stuff. And he goes and starts, you know, to look inside the greenhouse, see if there's any plants or stuff that he likes to bring back to life, right? And there's these two little boys walking by. One's obviously around 13, the other one's around 8 or 9. And the little boy keeps saying, I know I've seen a dragon. I know I've seen a dragon in the woods. And the older boy's like, you know, if you keep making up stories, Dad's going to whoop your butt. Like, you don't need to be talking like that. And that person, the tree farmer, froze. Because at that point, they put 2 and 2 together of what was in their woods. It was the same creature they seen growing up.
So it was a Snallygaster.
That's exactly what he
But
thought.
wasn't the New Jersey Devil one of its things that it would kill dogs?
I'm not 100% sure.
I know the Mothman is rumored to kill dogs.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I feel like the Snallygaster and the New Jersey Devil may very well be the same creature.
All I know is that when I'm playing Fallout 76, I hate going to the ruins of Charleston, West Virginia, because there's always a Snallygaster in the swampy part right there, right down the road from the Grafton Monster. And I don't like fighting either one of them. They're creepy. But with the Snallygaster, it is a it's not really West Virginia, it's Appalachian folklore, and I would go on to say that it's, you know, quite possibly just the East Coast folklore
Yeah.
of Is it the New Jersey Devil? We don't know. Nobody knows, because as soon as you start getting more information, it goes away.
It don't want to be found out.
But like I said, it's in German history. It's in West Virginia, Maryland, Native American. They all believe in it.
I'm gonna try to look into some more about the Native American folklore behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Native American. So with the Snallygaster, like I said, quick little story we can go over for West Virginia folklore. There's a little bit more into it. We got one other story that we want to go over right now.
The Greenbrier Ghost?
The Greenbrier Ghost. It's something that I don't know a whole lot about the Greenbrier Ghost, to be honest with you. So I'll let one of you guys take over from here.
Okay. So the Greenbrier Ghost is the name given to the ghost of Elva Zona Hester Shue. I think I'm pronouncing her last name correctly.
They call her Zona, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. She was murdered in 1897 in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. It's also the only known case within the history of the justice system where a ghost's testimony helped convict a murderer.
That's wild.
It is wild. There's actually a historical marker up in Greenbrier County, and it talks all about it. So, I mean, imagine being the guy that thinks, oh man, I got away with murder, and then they're like, yeah, well, the ghost said.
I don't know how much you're going to get into the trial part of it, but the wild thing about it was, whenever it did go to trial with everything, the prosecutors weren't even the ones who brought up the ghost testimony. That's the craziest part, yeah. Because the prosecutor was terrified to bring it up.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like of how that could sound.
Mm-hmm. So, just a quick backstory. Zona was found dead in her home by a boy that was sent by her husband to ask what she wanted from the market. Her death was initially thought to be of natural causes, but Zona's mother, Mary J. Hester, insisted that Zona was killed by her husband, Erasmus Stribling Trout Shue. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
That's the tough part, man. Tough part.
So, the folklore is that Mary, which is Zona's mother, said that Zona appeared to her in a dream and accused her husband of murder. And then Mary brought her brother-in-law to see the county attorney. Edward Shue was then in turn found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison, directly related to the testimony of a ghost.
Whenever I was reading about it, like what happened with all that was, you know, the mom said that she was visited by the ghost, like her spirit and all this stuff, and she actually detailed how she was killed by her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, you know, at the time, like he said, they ruled it as like natural causes. I think they said that it was childbirth. Like, you know, because during that time, that wasn't a terribly uncommon thing.
Yeah.
So they ruled it as an accidental death by childbirth. And whenever she was visited by her daughter's spirit, she detailed how he killed her. Mm-hmm. So she then goes to the prosecuting attorney and says, hey, she visited me and said this is how she was killed. So the prosecuting attorney then, you know, basically just for the giggles of it, you know, he contacts the coroner, and the coroner was like, well, I mean, I didn't really do too much. Like, I didn't check too much into it because it appeared that she just passed away giving childbirth. So I just basically said that. So the prosecuting attorney's like, so you didn't even do like an official autopsy? He's like, no. So they dug her back up. They did an official autopsy. They then found that, like, because she said that he like strangled her to death. Well, when they checked her body and stuff, her vocal cords had been smashed. There was bruising around her neck that was consistent with strangulation. Like, first of all, how did you miss that? Like,
right? How do you miss that?
They actually examined her in a one-room schoolhouse on February 22nd, 1897. And her mom had to convince the prosecuting attorney, like, hey, this is what happened. Nobody really knows if he believed her or not, but he went and re-interviewed everybody, and he was like, okay, look, we'll exhume her body. You know, like you said, after he talked to the doctor, and he was like, nah, I just didn't really look her over that good. But they actually found her neck was actually broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, everything that she said that the ghost told her lined up to what they actually ended up finding.
And then it goes to trial, and during the trial, the prosecutors, they steer clear of it. Because they were like, we're just going to stick to the facts of her neck was broken, her vocal cords were smashed, her husband was the only one that was there. They were going from the logical point of view. Well, the defense then hears that, what caused all this to happen. The defense heard, that she went to them because a ghost told her what happened. Mm-hmm. So they bring it up because they're trying to, discredit everything. And they kept grilling the mom about details from the interaction, and everything still kept lining up perfectly. All the details lined up perfectly. She never broke. She never varied. She never swayed. Nothing. She stuck to it, and it lined up perfectly. And some backstory about this man. Here's the wild thing. This one was his third wife.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm. He ended up saying that his goal was to marry 7 women in his life.
Wow!
And he said that during his interview because they were interviewing him whenever he first got arrested for the murder, and he's just laughing it off. He's like, "Oh, they don't have any evidence. I'm gonna be set free. I didn't do it. They can't prove nothing. Blah blah blah." He said, "My goal is to marry 7 women in my lifetime." Well, his first wife, he divorced. And then his second wife had a mysterious death. Mm-hmm. And nothing really came of that one. And then the third one was the one where the ghost went to her mom, and is now known as the Greenbrier ghost.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So they ended up, going to trial. Mm-hmm. They did all that, and the defense, tried to use that against them. And the judge said, that he had no grounds to be able to tell the jury, you can't take into consideration what a ghost says. Mm-hmm. He's just because, he's just because he even said, how can you discredit this whenever it lines up perfectly with what happened?
Exactly. One thing I did read, because I said I don't know a whole lot about this, one thing I did read is normally this guy had the same routine every day. He would get up, go to work at the smithy, come back home to a warm dinner every single day. Mm-hmm. Well, on that day, he got up, didn't go straight to the smithy. He went straight to, I can't remember the name of the little boy's house, and asked him to go do some chores at their house, like get eggs and chicken eggs and all that stuff. Well, he went back to the smithy. He went to the smithy after that. He returned to this boy's house 4 times that day to tell this boy who was 11 years old, why aren't you doing these chores? I tell you, why aren't you doing this? To the point where the boy's like, okay, I'll go do it. So the boy, goes over there to check the eggs. There is no eggs. There's nothing. Like somebody had already checked the eggs. Mm-hmm. So his next chore was to go and check on Zoda. Mm-hmm. So he goes, knocks on the door, nothing happens. He checks the door, it's open. Mm-hmm. Goes through to the kitchen, which is the first room. It's quiet, cold, like the kitchen hadn't been used all day. So he's like, well, maybe she doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. Walks into the living room, I guess it was a living room or dining room, and Zona's laying there on the floor face down. So he, at that time, this is the 1800s, and he was African American. He knew that he needed to get out of there as fast as he could, because it's in Greenbrier County. Mm-hmm. The backwards way it was back then. He ran straight home to his mom. His mom says, we know what we gotta do. Went straight to the smithy to tell him, hey, your wife is dead. Mm-hmm. And then, they go off from there. And I think the other part of the story was they told the coroner to go to that house. And when the coroner gets there, they walk through with the little boy and his mom. Zona's not in the room where she was at. She's upstairs in the bedroom with the husband who's cradling her and crying. That's the story.
Yeah. So that's one of those things where he's trying to stage it to where he doesn't look guilty, but because back then, whose word are they going to take? They're going to take his, or they're going to take the little boy's word.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So he knew that he was going to get by with that.
So he tried to force that. I think he tried to force that little boy to go to the house and then say that was the last person to see. Yeah. I think that was the story. However, I'm not 100% on that. But that's what it sounds like to me. He was trying to. He knew he killed his wife.
Yeah.
And tried to set up this little boy, and the ghost knew that and said no.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell the true story. But that's it. Is that the only time or the first time? The only time.
It's the only time. The only other thing I can think about was there was a case back in I think like the 70s or 80s where the defense argued demonic possession for a defense against a murder. And
William Dafoe.
I think so.
Amityville?
Yeah. Well, no, not Amityville. This was a different one. They did make a movie about it, like one of the Conjuring movies was made about it.
Okay.
But I looked it up and it was a true story because I like the paranormal kind of stuff and I find it interesting.
I do not like those type of movies. My daughter Isabella loves watching those type of movies.
Yeah.
I just think that they're interesting, but it was based off of a true story of because the Ed and Lorraine Warren, was that their names? Huh?
What?
Ed and Lorraine, wasn't it Warren?
Yeah, Warren.
They had done an exorcism on a boy, and the sister of the boy, her boyfriend was there, and he said, "You leave that boy alone," or something like that. "Take me," or something like that. And then he ended up getting possessed. The demon's like, "Well, okay."
Yeah.
And then apparently within like a week after that, he ended up getting into an argument with his landlord and stabbed him and killed him and all this other stuff.
That's crazy.
And because and the exorcism was recorded.
Cold chill just now. That's kind of weird. That's kind of cold chill.
That's not a good time.
No, it wasn't.
But they even had like the video evidence of the exorcism and all that stuff.
Dang. So another interesting part of the Greenbrier ghost story, it kind of goes into a episode that's going to follow up in our West Virginia Folklore miniseries about Moundsville Prison.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband actually died on March 13th, 1900 in the Moundsville Prison of an unknown epidemic.
I saw that.
And he is also buried in an unmarked grave.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that's one of the folklore parts to the Moundsville Prison. I mean, there's a ton of them, that's one of them.
I saw that whenever he was convicted, because he did ultimately the jury did find him guilty of it. They said there was a lynch mob ready for him.
Oh wow!
And it took all the deputies and town police to break up the mob because they were going to hang him in the street right then and there for it.
Yeah.
Because that's just how they did stuff then. Because you're talking, he died in 1900, so this was like late 1890s.
Yeah, 1897 was when the report was published.
And you still had the Wild Wild West going on at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in
Yeah.
Greenbrier County,
Yeah.
It's a shock that they were able to break up the lynch mob and let him go to
the
prison.
shock that the police wasn't involved in it. Oh man.
That's the most shocking part, is that the sheriff wasn't the one leading the charge on that deal.
Yeah, honestly. I guess that they were still. It was probably one of those cases where it's still cast doubt in everybody's mind. Like, it probably really divided that town at that time, if you think about it, because you got, just look at all the factors, a ghost is saying that this man killed his wife. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, like you pointed out, there was an 11-year-old African-American boy who found her.
Yep.
There was probably, so that there's going to be people with their bias that thought one way.
Absolutely. And I think what's his name, Edward?
Honestly, I don't remember.
The husband.
Oh, no, that's like Erasmus or something like that.
Well, I'm not even going to say that name. I think that was what he was trying to do, was use that bias and the racism at that time to his advantage.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what he was trying to do.
Yeah, it was, most definitely.
Yeah. So, that's really quick episode,
I'm going to read what the historical marker says. I was actually able to find it.
Okay.
And I have visited this before, but it says, interred in a nearby cemetery is Zona Hester Shue. Her death in 1897 was presumed natural until her spirit appeared to her mother to describe how she was killed by her husband. It says Edward here, so I guess he went by Edward. Mm-hmm. Autopsy on the exhumed body verified the apparition's account. Edward was found guilty of murder. He was sentenced to life in the state prison. only known case in which testimony from a ghost helped convict the murderer. That is
insane.
crazy.
That's insane. But it just goes into it. I mean, it's folklore. I mean, it's West Virginia.
It is. I mean,
yeah. So, I mean, like you said, pretty short episode here. Snallygaster. Honestly, I just don't know enough about it.
well, I mean, the reality is not a whole lot of people know a lot about it.
That's very true. And then this is pretty much short and to the point. I mean,
I mean, you can only make so much out of it. I mean,
Exactly.
But our next episode, though, it's probably going to be quite a long episode. The Mothman.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, thank you for joining us. We are on TikTok Live right now. Thank you, TikTok Live, for sitting by. Thank you to YouTube. Hope you have a great day. This is top level content from the lower level. It's the basement. See y'all later.
Take it easy.
Take it easy.
Come along for the ride. We're building a community, one listener at a time. Follow and subscribe. Let's make this climb. Feel the rush as we hit.